So as I make this internal connection with myself, which is a sense connection, not an idea, it's very different. A sense connection of self is characterized by a feeling of being, an internal feeling of being. That doesn't take into granted the idea that I already am. I need to see for myself in the moment. I need to be able to feel myself in the moment. And then the more I practice continuing to come back to this internal reality, in the beginning it may be difficult. I forget. But the more I try, the more the body now begins to work with me, begins to work to support me, to help me. It calls me to make this internal connection again. It says, hey, you have separated from me. And then I come back. What comes back is this internal mind connection with the body. Through awareness, through attention. And I can feel the internal reality of my being. And as I practice this, I become the center of gravity of myself. I become the center of gravity within myself, grounding me. The center of gravity grounds me in the now, in the moment. And in becoming the center of gravity of myself, this internal beingness, my living becomes a function of this internal centeredness, this internal connection. My living, my thinking, my behavior becomes centered in being. And I practice this more and more, this continuous return to this internal connection. Once I recognize what an internal connection actually looks like, feels like, what the sense of it is. Because most people...
There's 12-minute congestion in 7 kilometers. You are still on the fastest route.
Well, there you go. We're on the fastest route. So most people are not aware that they're not actually connected, bonded with the body. They're bonded with their thoughts rather since early childhood. So once we make this connection, we begin to recognize sensorially by our sense, our taste, the feeling of our being, what it looks like. We begin to recognize it, then we can now begin to come back to this internal connection. And the more we do that, the more our lives become centered in our beings, become the byproduct of centeredness instead of the byproduct of our confused mind, our agitated thinking mind, which has been agitated since childhood, which has been excited, overstimulated since childhood, unable to still in the moment in order to see reality as it is, out of a centered sense of being. All right, so in short, what have we said? First, to work towards recognizing what a sense of self looks like, what it feels like. And that's with meditation. And the second is, once we have recognized what this sensed reality feels like, we're not thinking about it, we're maintaining it, we're feeling it in the reality of our being. Once we have identified it, now we can practice coming back to it again and again and again when we remember to. And then we can practice meditation in order to help us to solidify this internal connection. And then eventually, the more and more we do this, a shift in our consciousness, in the orientation of our consciousness, a shift goes from outside inside, and I become the center of gravity in my life. And then I begin to be able to live in this continuous centered state. And this is how I drive This is why sometimes I get messages, they say, but how can you drive and speak at the same time? Because I'm maintaining internal connection. I've worked for over 35 years with meditation in order to recognize and then to establish the point of my consciousness inward. I have U-turned it, so to speak, to be able to maintain this internal stability. And out of that, a conversation happens. All right, my friends, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope this is meaningful. Let me know in the comments below. This is Bassam. Take care.